All right. This is the second installment of the Blueprint Academy podcast. It's myself, Brian, and Harry.
Hey.
Over the next three episodes, we wanted a chance for you guys to get to know each of us a little bit individually. So I'll take the first sword and I'll let Harry and Brian pepper me for the next 5 or so minutes with questions so I can share my story.
Awesome. Well, this is good for me too. I guess, why did you actually, because I know you've studied construction management at University of New South Wales. What got you into that?
My mom, when we moved to Australia, we didn't have much money, but she had enough money to put a down deposit, and she bought a absolute shithole house. It was fucking rats. Everything was shithole, but it was near the beach in a part of Sydney called Curl Curl. And I worked on that job, sweeping the site and just helping the guys out. And then I got another job with those guys, just doing that, like doing more of that on another project. I was like 12 or 13. And I just loved it. I don't know how else to say. I liked the manual work. I liked understanding how things were built. I liked the finished product. I liked the culture. The mornings, the early mornings, the early afternoon, could get down to the beach afterwards. Like it just was a good life. So that's how it all started.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome culture down under as well. It's the tradies love it. But no, that's really cool. Well, how about post uni? Because I know you had a lot of fun during uni and then got quite serious with more of a sales role. How do you think that's impacted where you are now?
I think fundamentally you have to be good at sales if you want to progress. That's selling yourself, selling a thing. If you want to make money, you absolutely have to be good at selling. There's the only skill that matters is, unless you're fortunate enough to be born wealthy or have a trust fund or something like that, is like for the rest of us, you have to be able to sell something. And I just got lucky that I had one of the founders of the startup I was working at just said, "You're going to go start selling now." And he pulled me out of the job where I met Brian and forced me into a sales role. And I just had to learn very quickly how to pick up the phone and get somebody to listen to me. So.
Awesome.
Yeah. What are one of your biggest challenges or learning to start into that sales role that you were kind of just dropped into?
I think that the first piece of advice that I got was nice guys finish last. And I think that was a really interesting piece of advice. And I took it kind of like personally.
Yeah.
When I was like 20, 23.
It's your nature, right? You're a nice guy. Yeah. So.
And so actually there's a great book, separate conversation around, about this topic, but No More Mr. Nice Guy, great book if you haven't read it. But I think that this piece of advice made me reflect on the fact that I don't need to be pushy. I don't need to be rude. I need to be personable. I need to be present. But if I don't have this fear of asking for what I would like, and asking these, what I call like these friction questions, like, talk a lot about like, how do you help the prospect relive the pain? But ultimately you're going to have to get to a point which is like, how are you going to buy? Are you going to buy? When are you going to buy? Who else needs to know or give you approval to buy this thing? And, those are uncomfortable questions. And if you're overly nice, you just want this other person to like you and you don't ask for the friction, then I think that that's not where the trust is built in the relationship.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Did you ever see yourself landing your own company? You've founded your own company. You're the CEO of your own company. This part of your career, it's a pretty awesome achievement, something I look up to a lot. How do you take on that responsibility? What does that look like for you?
The first part of the question, yes, I always knew I was going to have my own company. Second time around, responsibility, I think has a lot more to do with staying absolutely present in the current moment. Control the things that you can control within the next 5 minutes, a couple hours, and try not to live in a constant thought or world outside of where you are today, because that will just create such a shit ton of just so much fear. And that fear is a really poor place to operate from, because you can't control what's going to happen in the distant future, the near future. You have to be able to control the outcomes that you can control in the business today. And one other thought on this, Harry, is I think trying to keep things as simple as possible. Just try to keep things as simple, as focused and simple as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the big lessons we've learned at the start here. You know, we've got a customer who's very happy with what we do, and we need to foster that and take care of that person and stay true to those beginning things. So yeah, I see what you're saying.
Love it. Any more questions? Maybe.
Sorry, guys, totally lost audio for a few seconds. So, Chris, repeat yourself, please. No, I'm curious on, you've lived in the construction world, and I feel like, I don't know where this question's really going to go yet, but when you deal with construction folks, especially in the field, I feel like you have to lose that nice guy mentality. And it's not to be mean, but I feel like people appreciate more the direct talk, right? Don't beat around the bush. We know what has to happen on the job. So I'm curious from, Harry asked you about being a CEO of the company and the sales role. Did any portion of that kind of field experience help lead to being able to have more confidence in driving sales, or, driving you to become a CEO, just kind of those things? Is that any assistance there? I'm just curious.
I think that one thing that we neglect is all of the life experience that we have in one area, and looking at that life experience like a stack of undeniable truth. That's what Alex Hormozi calls it. That stack of undeniable proof, the projects that we worked on, the early mornings, the late nights, the mundane, boring administrative tasks, and the more creative, collaborative tasks, what I prefer. That stack of undeniable proof, that's what gives you, I don't want to say the right, but the confidence to be able to do what's next. And the battle of the inches, that trench warfare stuff, where you're in it, that's where the confidence comes from. I don't think it comes from, I guess, could one argue the 18-year-old kid that just starts a company and just goes for it and just kind of has that for sure. And he or she, or they will build that proof by going through the motions of just being less wrong every decision that they make, or hopefully less wrong. And so, yeah, I think it's that. It's just being willing to be less wrong every single time, and leaning back on my fact that I've sold big deals, I've sold small deals, I've helped guide product in multiple different roles. I've lived in a lot of places. I speak a few languages. It just kind of all breaks down to that stack of undeniable proofs that this is what I'm supposed to do with my life.
Yeah, right on. Great answer.
All right, guys, this is awesome. Can't wait for the next one. I think who are we gonna pick apart next?
I think Brian's up.
All right, BK. We'll see you on the next episode. All right, thanks, guys.